Indano has been on the road over the past few weeks, this time touching down in St. Paul, Minnesota for the Republican National Convention. After spending a week in Denver for the Democratic Convention, we were anxious to hear the Republicans' message to the country and their response to Senator McCallan's running mate, Sarah Palin. Americans have traveled from far and wide to the city of St. Paul to celebrate John McCain and Governor Palin's candidacy. But many other Americans have also traveled to this city to demonstrate their hurt, their disappointment, and their disgust with a party and a candidate who they feel have left them behind. What's that? A two-headed Bush-Nixon monster? He wasn't invited to the celebration. Okay, Nixon on one side, Bush on the other. Where's John McCain in this mix? You're looking like Don King right now, only in America. Indano also encountered its fair share of protesters, some serious, some quite comical. We also came across some Ron Paul supporters at a McCain celebration. You're here supporting Ron Paul in a town that's celebrating John McCain. Talk about that.
Well, I'm here to support Ron Paul because he had won delegates, and he is the true voice of conservatism in the GOP. These guys are fake conservatives. There's not a dime's difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. Ron Paul is a true conservative, true small government, non-interventionist policies. He's a constitutionalist, he's a champion of the Constitution. And these people out here speaking tonight are literally undermining what the GOP is supposed to stand for. And Ron Paul's the only anti-war candidate in the GOP, and clearly that's why they're not allowing him to speak.
Ron Paul's supporters were quite angry that their candidate, their man, was not offered a speaking role at the GOP convention. Sarah Palin has been the object of scrutiny since John McCain announced, to the surprise of most Americans and even some GOP insiders, that she was in fact his running mate. Even as she and her family come under attack, the GOP rallied their support for the woman who may make history in November, becoming the first woman vice president of the free world. Sarah Palin is making her case to the nation, but is 2 months enough time for the American people to know who she is and what she represents? You decide.
I had advocated another choice. I knew others had advocated others.
Who would you have preferred?
Well, no, that's history now. But I did say from the very beginning, this is a classic vintage McCain. He was looking for something different. He wanted somebody that shared his commitment to reform and to ethics and to shaking up government. He found it, and by the way, it happened to be a governor, and by the way, it happened to be a fantastic lady with a lot of strength and courage of her own.
But not taking anything away from Governor Palin, but was this a strategy to engage those Hillary Democrats, those staunch feminists, to rebut the Democrats and what they stand for right now?
Well, it was a decision that John made, and that John made in the end on his own. Maybe that was a part of the strategy, but I think really John was inspired with what he saw in her and what he had learned about her. And he thought that she brought a lot of the same things that he wants for our country. It may wind up having been a brilliant decision, but I must confess at the first I didn't know what to think because I really didn't know her, but I've been impressed with what I've seen.
Are the American people really satisfied with Sarah Palin as the number 2 person with John McCain?
Well, initially what we saw in the polls was people said they didn't know her. I mean, you talk about, in politics, name identification is everything.
And they still don't know her.
Well, they still don't, but after tonight, she has defined herself as a small town powerhouse, someone who's coming and said, you know what, I know what I stand for, and I stand. She's talked about her son going off to serve in Iraq. She talked about the idea that she's been a mayor, now a governor, and she is someone who's proud of America at all times. I think a real jab at what we heard from Michelle Obama about that moment of first time she's proud of America. She defined herself as a worthy fighter, and a lot of people thought, you know what, this young woman's not up to this battle. She got these 5 kids, this kid with Down syndrome, this child is pregnant.
Is she up to it?
Looks like she is. And now we're going to see.
But has she been tested?
Tonight was a test. Don't underestimate the idea that speaking before this convention and before an international crowd of tens of millions of people, could make your knees quake. She stood up there and did an effective job of delivering a speech. It may have been written by professional speech writers. She may have had all kinds of help in preparing and staging, but really she was out there and she did an effective job. Now, that's not the whole job. There are going to be additional hurdles for her to surmount. Specifically, she's going to have to handle Joe Biden in a debate. And Joe Biden is a master of foreign policy, the vice presidential nominee, the senator from Delaware. How will she do there? How is she going to do when she has tough interviews?
And how will she do? We've only seen her this one time take to the national stage. There's a question mark there. We don't know how she's going to stand up against a Joe Biden. And then also, when she's debating against Joe Biden, is the public going to look at Joe Biden and say, be easy on her? She's a woman. She's a mother of 5 children. Come on, Joe. Give her a break.
No, I don't think they want to say give her a break, but they will say, don't be rude and don't be abusive. And that's a very thin line because
They don't say that when there's men standing there.
I was going to say to you, you know, it's men and men. But look, the fact is that we view women differently in this society, you know, and better and worse. I mean, women can get roasted, and I think Sarah Palin got roasted a little bit coming into this in terms of, you know, people saying she's not up to the job. Well, now it's people saying, taking a second look and saying, hey, she did a pretty good job here on the first night that she was introduced at this Republican convention. So what happens now? I think that if she continues to be the fighter, and she was tonight, you know, I think she was like a knife fighter out there with the way she was making fun of Barack Obama, written 2 books, but hasn't had time to write a piece of legislation. Those kind of shots, if she's taking those shots when Joe Biden's up there, Joe Biden has every right to fire back. But the thing is not to act in such a way that people would say he's a bully.
Okay, Chairman Donatelli, American people were a little caught off guard when they heard that Sarah Palin was John McCain's running mate. I mean, people were making bets that it would be Mitt Romney, that it would be Tim Pawlenty, that it would be Tom Ridge, but never in a million years did anyone see Sarah Palin coming. Did you have word of this? Did you know anything? Did you keep a secret from us?
Well, I'm not going to say about that, but what I will say is that Governor Palin, I think, filled in a lot of the blanks tonight, and I think the American people got a real indication of why Senator McCain is so high on her. She is very much in sync with him in terms of reform, in terms of her commitment to change Washington. She's going to be a great partner for John McCain.
A lot of people feel that the senator and the party were really kind of reaching for straws when they chose Sarah Palin, that they chose someone that's not familiar to the American people, that he's only met one time. If he's only met her one time, what makes him think that she's the best person for the job?
You have to be comfortable with your running mate. And it was clear from the very beginning that Senator McCain and Governor Palin both shared a penchant for reform. Senator McCain is somebody that runs for office, not to be somebody, but to do things. And as I think people heard tonight, Governor Palin feels exactly the same way. They're going to make a great team coming to Washington.
Does Sarah Palin's candidacy inject identity politics back into this race again?
I don't think so at all. It represents a new generation. It represents a reformer. It represents someone that's totally in sync with Senator McCain. It represents somebody, I think, that has a broad appeal all across the country. As I say, you heard her tonight. You're going to hear more of her in the future, and she's the next generation of political leaders.
Do you believe that some of her personal family challenges are going to overshadow some of her accomplishments and what she really does represent?
You know, I think Americans understand that every family has challenges. I think what's remarkable about this family is how much love there is. 5 children, children just born with Down syndrome. There's a loving relationship there, and she's a great governor of Alaska. This is a woman that can do a lot, and I think America learned about that tonight.
What does Governor Palin need to do for the next 2 months to make Americans comfortable with her, that she can be the #2 person in charge of this country, the #2 person as leader of the free world, and if anything should ever happen, God forbid, that she could lead this country in the right direction, that she could be the leader of the free world, more than just she being a woman, more than just she being a governor, a first-term governor? What does she have to do?
She has 60 days. She has to talk about the issues. She's going to talk about the issues. The American people, when they hear from her, are going to become more comfortable. You heard her talk a little bit tonight about foreign policy. You see she's already an expert on energy policy, really knows a lot about energy policy.
What about economics?
She's a governor. She has executive experience. She knows that you can't raise taxes in a soft economy and have prosperity. Senator Obama hasn't learned that yet. She will work very, very well with Senator McCain and our team. She's going to do very, very well. I think more America hears of Governor Palin, the more they're going to like her.
A lot of people are looking inside of her life and saying, how are you going to balance the two? You want to be the number 2 person to lead this country, but here you are, a young mother of 5 children, one that's gone off to Iraq, one that has Down syndrome, and one that's about to be a teenage mother. How are you prepared to lead this country and also balance some personal challenges right within your own home?
I think lots of people are having those conversations, but the question is, are people ready to vote on that issue? And right now, I think that Sarah Palin and the Republican Party is making the case it's nobody's business. That, in other words, you wouldn't say that to Barack Obama, you're the father of 2 young girls, what are you doing running for president? How are you going to have time with your kids? You're out there campaigning, and you know how stressful that's been. Imagine being president.
But you even said it, we look at women differently in this country.
So there are going to be some people, and it's interesting because I think the social conservatives have always been the ones that say, you know, we need somebody at home with the children. But in this case, the social conservatives are the ones that say, well, leave that up to the mother. We're not in the position to say to a woman, you can't do a job, you can't travel the world, you can't have major challenges just because you're a mother. So if Sarah Palin thinks she can handle it, let her handle it. But I think that there's the bigger issue, and I think to me the real issue from a political standpoint is, does this woman have the kind of experience that would inspire confidence that she should be the person 1 heartbeat away, and in this case 1 heartbeat away from a man who's 72 years old and has battled cancer. So, you know.
With that much said, can the American people feel comfortable with that, with a woman, an unknown entity, an untested individual that is a stone's throw away from being the leader of the free world? Who is she?
That's what I'm saying, Latoya, but that's a judgment. You know, we're talking so much about the questionable vetting that went on. What did Senator McCain know about Governor Palin before he appointed? Did he know about the birth of the pregnant child? You know, did he know about some of these other issues? And in this case, now what we're talking about is the vetting that would go on from the voters, because the voters are going to have to make some decisions about Sarah Palin. And if you look back on the performance that she did in Dayton when he first introduced her and the performance here tonight in St. Paul, you'd have to say so far she's inspired a level of confidence that her critics would not have believed possible from this 44-year-old.
What was your initial reaction when you first learned that Sarah Palin was Senator McCain's running mate? Were you sitting there baffled yourself?
No, I was not. In fact, she was one of my top 2 picks. It was either Governor Pawlenty or Governor Palin.
So you were in his ear.
And I was in there trying to go 1, 2, 2, 1. I didn't know how I was going to run. You got it, baby. Drill, baby, drill.
So why did you feel that she was an appropriate candidate?
Because you saw tonight why she was. You saw tonight why she was. She can take the fight to the street. And she can talk about the values and the principles, but most especially the problems that Americans face every day. She's living them, she's working through them, she's solving them as a mayor, as a governor, as a mom. And I think that is the flavor that's going to be so important in this campaign. She hit all the right chords tonight, making certain the people of this country know that it's time for a change, but it's the right kind of change that they need.
But in all fairness, Lieutenant Governor Steele, people were standing around on August 29th when they heard Sarah Palin was John McCain's running mate. The first thing that came out of their mouths was, who?
Well, people in Washington were saying who. People in the media were saying who. But people in the party were not. And people in her state obviously weren't.
But people in the party were also very surprised.
Well, some people were surprised because they didn't think that McCain would pull that trigger. And he pulled the trigger to say, this is going to be something different. We're going to do this a different way. This is not same old anymore. We're going to go out there and we're going to compete head-to-head, toe-to-toe for the votes of the people of this country. And we're going to bring them something a little bit different, something that they're not used to seeing. The Democrats have done it. The Republicans have done it. Now it's going to be up to the people to make a decision.
Is 2 months long enough for the American people to get to know Sarah Palin and what she stands for?
Sure it is. I mean, you got to see a little bit of her tonight. I mean, what do you want to know? You want a bio? You want a resume? You want to sit down, have some coffee?
We want want all of that.
You're going to get all of that. Trust me, you're going to get all of that.
So paint us a picture, fast forwarding, a debate between Sarah Palin and Joe Biden. What should we expect?
Fun.
Fun.
It's going to be fun to watch. It is going to be fun to watch. I can't wait to see Biden squirm.
All right. We're going to talk about this real soon. Squirm, you said.
Squirm.
All
That's
right.
SQUIRM.
You've heard it first from some of the GOP's most senior leaders that McCain-Palin is the right ticket at the right time for all the right reasons.
Sarah Palin is fresh and true change. So we didn't know who Barack Obama was about a year ago. Now everybody, overnight, everybody knows who Sarah Palin is.
It's been made crystal clear from the floor of this Republican convention, despite what the media may say, despite what the Democrats may say, despite what some pundits may say, the GOP is fired up and ready to go to throw their support behind a McCain-Palin ticket. Your 9th National Republican Convention.
That is correct.
Needless to say, you're not a Democrat.
I am a Republican, and the first convention I attended was as a high school youth in 1956, and I was an assistant doorkeeper when Eisenhower and Nixon were renominated. This is the first convention that I'm serving as a delegate.
Really? Have you ever been tempted to switch parties?
No, because the Republican Party has principles for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
I'm curious, what are your thoughts about Sarah Palin and John McCain?
It is a winning ticket, and the wonderful evening that John appeared to support Sarah. Her appointment is out of the box, and that's what America is looking for, and we are so fortunate to have a lady on our ticket.
What are the first words that come to your mind when you hear McCain-Palin?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Why?
Because they're just the greatest team together. McCain has always been a person that's bucked the system, that wants fiscal responsibility. Now he's going to have a lady that knows how to do the same thing. And they're going to shake up Washington like it's never been shaken up before.
Many women are sitting on the sidelines right now saying, what's this all about? Did Senator McCain choose Sarah Palin because she's a woman, because she can identify with the struggles of the everyday average American person? Is this almost an insult to a lot of women because this looks like it could be identity politics being injected into this race once again?
No, I believe he was looking for someone that thought like him. And if you look at her record, she goes like McCain does against the Grail. If there was corruption in the Republican Party, he's going to be the one to speak out about it. If he doesn't like what's going on, he'll speak out. She spoke out. He was looking for someone that had the same values, same ideas, same direction, and he found it.
But with women, he's failed on the women's pay equity. He does not support a woman's right to choose. There are a lot of issues that hit home for women that he just does not support.
We'll see what happens.
Talk a little bit about Sarah Palin. How would you describe her?
Sarah Palin is the epitome of a modern woman. She's strong, she's independent, she can buck the system, yet she is utterly feminine. And she smiles and is graceful the whole time. It's beautiful to watch because she's a strong woman and she doesn't back down.
Do you expect her to take some of those Hillary Democrats, some of those staunch feminists who are in total support of Hillary Clinton becoming the Democratic nominee?
I have a lot of Hillary supporters backing my U.S. Senate campaign. I'm sure that they will also back Sarah Palin. This is the year of the woman, and if you're a strong woman, this is your time. Go for it.
Is the party of Lincoln comfortable in supporting not one but two mavericks?
I don't know if they're mavericks. These people are people with ideals and direction, and they know where they're going, and they know where they've been, and they know where they need to go, and they'll take us there.
Tell us, what does John McCain and Sarah Palin have to do over the next 60 days to make the American people comfortable and confident that they are both ready to lead this country in the right direction during a time when the Republican Party and the president have the lowest numbers since this administration began?
Well, the only thing numbers that are lower than the president's is the Congress. So Congress is the one that has to do the changing. So we need to change Congress, and the president and vice president will carry on and do a great job.
Now, the Congress is led by the Democrats, who have a 35% approval rating, but the Republicans in Congress have a 25% approval rating. They have over 20 seats that are vulnerable in November. What do they have to do to reclaim those seats?
They need to follow the leader, the lead of their leader, John McCain. And
speaking of the Party of Lincoln, African Americans broke from the Party of Lincoln when the Democrats offered support for civil rights and helped pass the Voting Rights Act. Since that time, blacks have overwhelmingly supported the Democratic Party, but we found a couple of African Americans sprinkled in the crowd of GOP supporters, and we were eager to learn why their loyalty remained with the GOP. Now, there are some viewers who are looking around at this Republican convention and they're saying, who are these African Americans sitting in the crowd? Blacks don't vote Republican. What are you doing here?
Well, first of all, I'm here to support Senator McCain and Governor Palin, and we hope to get them elected. And
why do you think they're best for the job?
Well, I'll put it like this. I'm a veteran, and I'm a Republican. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Black and Republican Party.
We know about the Party of Lincoln,
Right.
We know that Dr. King and some others were Republicans as well.
All right. And the thing is this, is I'm always reminded that Dr. King said, I will be glad when my children be judged for the quality of character rather than their skin. And I say this in all sincerity, I will be so glad when we become a colorblind society and start looking at people's hearts rather than the color of their skin. Now, we had an election about a couple of years ago over in Maryland. We had former Lieutenant Governor Michael Steele,
who's a good friend of ours,
running for senator. And I just knew that the great Maryland black community was going to come out and support the first African-American lieutenant governor.
And many of them did.
But at the same time, we should have gotten 90%.
But you have to think about President Bush's numbers were at a record low at the time. Was Michael Steele not just a Republican at the wrong time?
I understand that. But see, the thing is this is, if you want to vote for a person because of the color of their skin, they would have voted for Michael Steele irregardless. See, so what I'm saying is this is, I'm a lifelong Republican. My granddaddy was part of the old Black and Tan Party that ruled. The Republican Party was a party of power in Mississippi until 1960. That's when the white lily factor came in, and they fought the rules, and was seated, and that was the end of the, Perry Howard, who was National Committee man, and the Black and Tan Party. So it wasn't that long ago when the blacks when we controlled the Republican Party in Mississippi. So I have no problem being a Republican. I have no problem supporting Senator McCain and also Governor Palin.
You're here supporting John McCain and Sarah Palin. Why do you believe that they are the best leaders for this country?
Well, especially as it pertains to Senator McCain, we know he's ready to step this very instant if he had to. And we're very fortunate that we have someone like Senator McCain that's willing to serve his country. He puts country first. And at this time in history, that is so critical, so critical. There are truly no words that can tell you just how serious it is that we have someone like Senator McCain be the President of the United States.
Now, what have you heard the senator say that makes you feel confident that he will do everything in his power to stimulate the economy, to address the mortgage crisis in this country? Not just his national security experience, but what about the bread and butter issues that everyday American families are feeling every single day?
Well, first of all, he is a person, both he and our new First Lady, they are people of true compassion. When you can look into someone's heart and understand that they truly do care, They could be doing so many things. They've served this country.
Do you feel that Senator Obama does not care?
No, I'm not at all attempting to say that. You know, we realize that things happen sometime. If by some coincidence, certainly I would hope that the country would somehow bring itself to unite and support the President of the United States.
No matter who that person may be.
Now realizing that I am, and there's no compromise in that regard. But all things considered, this is America. America's a great nation. We are fair, we're just. I'm not trying to minimize or oversimplify things. I think it's imperative that the American people learn to be supportive of their leaders. Where there are problems, and there are problems, we need to work together. If we are not careful, we will divide ourselves. We will defeat ourselves. And with all of the turmoil that's going on in the world currently, we should not risk that. We should not risk our humanity. And that's how serious it is to me.
Perhaps there's an element of shock, maybe even a little hesitation, maybe even slight reluctance. But the fact of the matter is, after hearing such powerful speeches here on the floor of the Republican National Convention, Republicans are more than ready for the challenge that awaits them. They're ready to see Obama versus McCain. They're ready to see Biden versus Palin. And we at home, at the end of the day, are in the control seat. We decide, ladies and gentlemen. So take what you've heard from both of these conventions and then make an assessment for yourself on who you believe is best to lead this country in the right direction. I'm Latoya Foster. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, you know we want to hear from you via email, LatoyaFosterInTheKnow@hotmail.com, LatoyaFosterInTheKnow@hotmail.com. Thanks for joining us on our road trips, and keep us in mind every week when it's time to talk politics. You have to be in the know.
Thank you.